This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
All right, welcome everyone. We are here for the Finance Committee meeting of the month of February. And so if I could, at this time, just let the minutes please reflect that Councilor Roebuck is present, I am present, and Councilor Kennard, if you could just please acknowledge that your microphone's working so we know you're with us.
I'm here.
Wonderful. So, and is Councilor Oropesa online by chance? If Councilor Oropesa is online, if you could just say that you're here, we'll make that for the record. Okay, let the record reflect that Councilor Oropesa is not here with us. We have Mr. Mayor's here with us today. Councilor Stubbs here with us today. Just looking to see if there's any others. Okay, that's it today. All right, and then staff and lots of people who just want to learn about finance, right? All right, if I could have a motion.
Get financed.
If I could have a motion to approve the agenda, and if you could please, number 8, we need to pull off. We're just not quite ready for that yet. We will take that up hopefully very soon, but we need to do a little bit more work there.
Roger. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented, except with the exception of removing item number 8, consideration of resolution 22XX.
We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented, except for removing number 8 from section F. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, considering of the minutes of January the 6th, did anybody have any corrections that you needed to have made? If not, then the minutes will stand approved as read, as published. Okay, informational reports. Do we have anything? Let's go through there.
The reports real quick, councilors. Let's get this. For the, having problems with my little mouse here. For the gross receipts tax for January 2022, actually collected is $3.3 million. We anticipated in the budget about 2.6 based on prior year history. So we are up 736,000 for the month of January. As you can see on the 3-year trend there, 2022 has been hovering above 20 and 21, which is a good sign that we are receiving more than what we anticipated. When you look at, next slide, the year-to-date growth collected for the current fiscal year, we are stand at $22.8 million. Budgeted, we only anticipated 20.3, so we are up to $0.5 million in the coming months. That activity, as you can see from last year, will be the December activity, which is the holiday activity. So we anticipate that we're going to see hopefully a similar spike in next year's, in February's GRT receipt. So any questions on that, Chair?
Any questions or thoughts from staff, from any of the councilors? So Councilor Kennard, leave it there for a second. Sure. Okay, there are none. I'll just say this. I just because I'm getting I guess pounded just a little bit here lately because people are calling and asking because they're seeing things written and they're hearing things said by candidates. And I'm not about to get in the mix of this election. I'm staying out of this thing. I'm not up for election this time, but I do want to I do want to defend the fact that this is going very well. I don't know how anyone else budgets at their home. My wife and I try to live below our means, and we believe that that's the way we do it. There's been a lot of accusation of wasteful spending and different things that is just uncalled for. I can't answer for a whole lot except for to say, you know, I'm proud of the city and I'm proud of this committee for working diligently and being able to pull out 23% in 1 year of spending and didn't have to fire one person, did not have to tell some person to walk away. And I don't know, but there's never been a year since I've been alive and since I've been budgeting at my home that I've been able to cut out 23%, and somebody didn't have to do without horrific changes in our life. So I just want to commend our staff for the quality that they're bringing to us. I want to commend our staff for what's happening. And this last budget that we're working in now, as you can see, we're up and we're up and we're up and we're up. We're 2.5 in variance above. I just think that the numbers speak for themselves, and I'm not trying to argue with anyone. Just want to clear the air that this city is being very fiscally responsible. Our staff is being very fiscally responsible, and this committee and the council as a whole has taken drastic measures to be the conservative city that we know we are, and to take care of business. And we put more money into roads and infrastructure this year than I've ever seen. We're trying to get there. So I just wanted to clear the air with that and get that off my chest if I could.
Sure, if you don't mind me coming on that as well, as someone who's not running for reelection, something that, as I think about, I'll have one more meeting after this. And so we've done 48 of these in my time, give or take one or two. And, whenever I do anything, I want to do things well, and we want to leave things better than we found them.
Right.
And I think that this council has set the next council up for success financially. And that's something that I'm proud of the work that we've done. And it hasn't been easy, and it's taken a lot of staff's time. It's taken a lot of times digging through the numbers, and the distance that we've come in 4 years is really set up future councils for success. As far as, putting ourselves in a good not only just putting ourselves in a good financial situation, but setting up the proper, financial systems to make it easier and better for us to make good decisions. It's hard to make good decisions without good data, and when I started 4 years ago, it feels like it was 1,000 years ago. We didn't have good data at all. And the council worked hard and the staff worked hard, and we brought in some new faces, which has been very helpful. And we are in a much, much better place than we were 4 years ago financially, not only from the actual money that's in the bank account, but also from the systems to make sure that we don't make mistakes as a council, that we make wise decisions. And so that is something when, again, not running. You see the rhetoric, it's like, man, we've worked really hard, and we put this city in a good position financially, with everybody's work and everybody's help.
Well, I wasn't trying to bring things personal there again. I'm not here to rally around one and not another. I recognize when there's elections going on that there's things that are popular to be able to say, but I just want to say publicly that we have a phenomenal staff that has put these things together. Our city manager, Joe Nebb, has been very diligent. He understands the process very well. Mike Matthews, Juan Fuentes here with us, Janie Davies, just all of our group that we have. Since I have been on the council, I do not know that not that any of these other positions that they were not good at their job, but I don't know that we've had this quality all together at one time. And so I sort of do have to defend to a certain degree that we're not in the hole. We're not just spinning everything on smoke and mirrors. We're getting things done, and just want to appreciate staff with that and let them know that we'll get through these elections and we'll get back to normal, and we'll be able to continue doing what we do. Okay. All right. Go ahead and continue.
Okay, Mr. Chair and committee members, I think the next slide is pretty much captures what you all have said. And this is our DFA Q2 report. And this is just the summary sheet. As you can see here, just wanted to highlight some of the major funds. The way DFA requires us to report to them is in a different format than what we're used to when we look at our own budget, because it's more detailed. Our budget is more detailed. It's broken down by different funds. DFA groups things together. But when you look at, for example, the first row at the top, general operating fund, As you can see there, our beginning cash, we have as of the end of Q2, 24 million. And of course, we have I'm looking at the total number, 8.2 million just in the general fund, and then we have 14.4 in investments. So when you do all of the account for the revenues that has come in of 24 million, the transfers and the expenses, we still have an adjusted a balance at the end of 19.9. It requires a DFA reserve of 1.6. And of course, we still have that adjusted balance at the end. This is on a quarterly basis. We report to DFA all of these major categories in their reporting system. As you go towards the bottom of the report, then you start seeing the enterprise funds. You see the water enterprise, solid waste, the airport fund, and the cemetery. And of course, there's other catch-all trust and agency funds. One of the things that DFA looks at, of course, is making sure that none of these funds have a negative balance. So as you can see there, we are healthy throughout the various funds. And of course, this is more of a grouped report. And as you can see right in the middle, you see the 26,000 fund. That is the American Rescue Plan fund that we are tracking separately because that is required. So overall, as you all stated, Mr. Chair and councilors, I think the city is good in a good financial position Q2. And I think moving into the next quarter and closing of the fiscal year, we'll definitely start planning for the new fiscal year. And we certainly have some of the financial resources to continue moving with some of our capital projects. And that's the end of my report.
Fantastic. All right. Any other thoughts from committee members?
No, we should put this on Facebook.
It's public record.
Yeah.
So any comments from anyone else that needs to make a comment? Very good. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
All right. Juanita.
Hello. Just another update for y'all. We still have 2 hotel properties within the community that have not paid lodgers tax since September. We did have contact with that management company on Saturday, January 15th. Our city attorneys had already sent 1 letter. They reached out again this week because we've not had contact from the 15th with any type of payment. What I'm about to show you, while it might look bleak, we are very confident that once we get the payments, we will be at a good percentage where we normally are at in the 60%, 65% range of collections, which I believe we can come to y'all looking at next fiscal year and prepare lodgers tax for our special events. Of course, our bond interest payment was submitted on the 1st for $68,000. If you'll go to the next slide. This is where our collections are at. Again, total right now, because we have the 2 hotels missing for 4 months, we're at 40.8%. If we looked at comparables from where they submitted from 2019, we believe we would be closer to that 58 to 60% range. It does show, a downward spiral. Again, when you're missing 4 months from 2 of our largest hotels, that's why you see this reflection. And this is from November. I can report that all the hotels for December reporting, which were due on January 25th, have submitted except for those 2, Marriott, Fairfield Inn, and Town Place. If you'll go to the next one.
Those are the same owner?
Same owner. Same thing here with bed fees. Again, it's going to be off so much because when you have, 2 large properties like that haven't submitted for 4 months, it's going to show the decline. We have been working with our accounting manager at Convention Center to kind of give us a forecast. If we look at what they did in 2019, taking into consideration the Black Swan year, we believe will be anywhere between 50 and 60%. And I will stand for any questions.
All right. I'll just say, I don't know what's going to happen. None of us can predict, but we are seeing reports that it looks as if this variant of COVID is starting to wean its way down. I'm really hoping that as we see these variants, that they get weaker and weaker and people will feel more comfortable with traveling. People will be able to get back to work and get in here. Mr. Mayor.
I'll address this, Mr. Knapp. Do we need to start looking into litigation regarding these 2 hotels that are now 4 months behind?
Mr. Mayor, members of the committee, are speaking to our city attorneys earlier this week. They are giving them one more opportunity to make payment. If they fail to do so at the end of this month by February 25th, at that point, they will take it to court and send them basically to court, kind of how we had to do a few years ago with one of our hotel properties
Okay.
that was in the same position.
Thank you.
It's an estimated anywhere between $45,000 to almost $55,000 in owed taxes.
And Mr. Chair, this is the last resort of what we want to ever do to one of our businesses. We don't want to go that route, but when we have a group not contributing into it, it puts the weight more on everybody else. And so the whole idea is to spread that through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else, Mr. Mayor? Where, I know we discussed before, has there been any more thought on us considering a change of date for reporting?
Yes, in speaking with our city attorney, because we still have these two, we don't want to make any changes so they can't fall back and say we changed in the middle.
Right.
We want to be clear and consistent, get them caught up, get them paid, and then roll out
Wonderful.
after that.
I think that may at least help us with our.
Yes. And we are on the tourism side to promote lodgers tax. We have a new campaign that starts on March 1st. From the other hotels' perspective of what they are coming in, we are doing pretty well, especially knowing December and January are usually our lowest months. Obviously, travel season is not high in December and January for leisure travel. We have our new tourism campaign that will start on March 1st that the city does ourselves. And then we also have partnered with the state tourism department through the co-op program. And we currently have a digital campaign that will also begin gearing us up for summer.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions, thoughts, concerns from committee members?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilor Kennard.
Okay, so I've had some problems with hearing you guys, so I don't know if every participant is experiencing that or just me, but I'm back now. I sent you a text, so I just didn't want you to be confused about it.
Okay, all right. Are you able to hear us well right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we will try our best to make sure we're speaking up so that and maybe if any of our staff has to speak to this, maybe y'all come to the table so it'll pick up on the microphones better, okay? All right, anything else? Okay, thank you, thank you. We got anything else, Juan?
Okay, Robert can hear clearly.
Okay, good. All right. All right, so we're done with reports? Or do we have more?
No.
All right, okay. So we have no more reports to go through on our action items. Number 3, consideration to authorize Enid Costley, the library director, to accept and sign the annuity claimant statement on behalf of the Roswell Public Library from, I guess.
I'm not sure if, Enid, are you online? No.
Okay, will you speak to this then, Juan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just switch to the next slide here. Okay, Mr. Chair, committee members, so as we know, the Roswell Public Library was named as one of the 3 beneficiaries for Mr. Dan Evans' life insurance policy. The library share is 25% of non-qualified tax deferred annuity. It was on October 8th, 2021, valued at $64,000. To claim a portion of the lump sum settlement, we need to complete a form provided by Horseman Life Insurance Company claimant statement, provided a W-9 form and a letter from the governing body stating that the person signing the form has the right to do so. So the resolution before you is basically authorizing Enid Costley as the Roswell Public Librarian to accept and sign the death benefit on behalf of the library itself. She has been in contact with the city attorney who has been reviewing the documentation, and the recommendation is to authorize Enid to sign on behalf of the library.
And after the signing and everything, will everything at that point just be handled by finance or through the, who?
Any proceeds, any funds that come through the library will be worked through the finance department.
So once she signs, it
That's
just,
correct.
all right?
Just like we have when she received another donation from a resident that passed away, left the house, some other belongings that was also processed through finances.
Okay, any questions or concerns from committee members? All right, I will entertain a motion.
And if the chair doesn't object, I'll send a consent.
That's fine.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend a full council to authorize Enid Costley, Library Director, to accept and sign annuity claimant statement on behalf of the Roswell Public Library to the consent agenda.
We have a motion and we have a second by Counselor Kennard. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by same sign. Okay, Counselor Kennard, I don't know that we were able to hear you. Would you please say yay or nay so we'll know what your vote is?
I voted yes.
Okay, so that all three in favor. So the motion passes. Thank you very much. Moving to the next item, please. Considering the award recommendation for the RFP for the utility statement processing and mailing services.
Hi, good morning.
Come on up here to the table so they'll be able to hear you. Good morning. How are you today?
Good, how are you guys?
Good. You're enjoying this, aren't you?
No. I don't know, I'm so terrified always.
You're going to be fine. You just talk to us like we're having coffee. Go ahead.
Good morning, committee members. So I am before you to have you guys consider approval of the award recommendation for RFP 22008 utility statement processing and mailing services, and authorization for the city manager to enter into contract negotiations with Level 1 of Malvern, Pennsylvania. The city of Roswell went out to RFP for utility statement and mailing services. A total of 13 proposals were received on December 21st, 2021. 2 proposals were deemed non-responsive to the RFP requirements. And the evaluation committee has recommended award to the most advantageous offerer as presented on the award recommendation report. If approved, contract expenses under this RFP will be covered by existing funds approved in the fiscal year 22 budget. No legal review required at this time. So Finance Committee is asked to consider approval of this award recommendation and authorization for city manager to enter into negotiations with Level 1. Can't remember if there's a second page. There's not. Okay. Okay, sorry.
All right. Questions or discussion from committee members?
I'm sorry, I haven't looked at this item previously. Have we used a processing and mailing service before? Is this a new vendor that we'd be switching from? Is this going to help any of our problems? I guess those are my 3 questions.
It's a new vendor. We're changing from the current one.
I'll jump in too.
That's fine.
We have utilized utility mailing services for a number of years. And so we've come up and we have to reinstitute this thing every 4 years essentially. So this is a new vendor for us. However, I think it was a very competitive process. So will it correct a lot of things for it? Probably. I don't think it has any effect on the issues that we're faced with. This is something that has worked really well with the other vendors as well too. And so it's just getting those bills out. They fold them, they put them into the envelopes, and they ship them off to whoever needs to have them at the time. So
Not related to
the system itself. It is the end result of that thing, but I think this is the part that has always worked without fail. So,
and also you're going to be updating full council.
I am doing a utility billing presentation.
Right, so we'll cover all that at the council meeting. Yes, sir. All right, Councilor Kennard, any questions, concerns, thoughts?
No, my questions were going to follow what Jacob said, so thank you.
And I think that a lot of that will be explained and better understood when we get the presentation at full council, and we'll all be able to be able to get that at one time. So that'll be good. Okay, all right. If no others, then I would entertain a motion.
Chair, would you like this to go to the consent or not?
Yes, it's just.
Yeah, it feels housekeeping to me.
It's housekeeping.
Great. Then, Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to full council the award of RFP 22008 utility statement processing and mailing services to, what's the name of the company?
Level 1 of Malvern, Pennsylvania.
Level 1 of Malvern, Pennsylvania, to the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to send this RFP 22008 to consent agenda with a recommendation to
Second.
approve. We have a second from Councilor Kennard. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. See, it wasn't that bad, was it?
No, it wasn't.
All right. All right. Number 5, consideration for the resolution to approve the budget adjustments for fiscal year ending in June of this year.
The resolution is 2208, revenues totaling 11,895, expenses to various funds for 3,653,001, and then a transfer for the zoo. Revenue consists of rental income from the library from the house that Juan discussed earlier. That was a donation to the library. The HIDA grant is the difference in the grant and what we originally budgeted. And then we have additional restricted donations that'll be given budget authority to each one of the departments that has some in that. For expenses, we have an increase in general fund of $383,686. Some of the top ones on that are $200,000 entertainment for the 75th anniversary of the UFO Festival. We have $75,000 of for physicals and background checks for HR for new hires. We have $45,000 to purchase and install AV equipment in the SunWest building for code enforcement and planning when they go in. And the other amounts are fairly small on general fund. We're looking at increasing budget authority for law enforcement protection fund for $30,800 to purchase guns and tasers. We have a $25,000 increase in HIDA to match the grants that we received. We have $577,474 in recreation, capital improvements, roads, and landfill for the monthly gross receipts tax admin fee. We have $250,000 in lodgers tax for the tourism grant that was received in fiscal year 21. We got the money in 21, but they didn't have the opportunity to spend it in 21. 65,000 of that will cover salaries, and the other 185,000 will be other various expenses. We have $720,000 additional budget authority for the zoo for the 4 projects that were approved at the January City Council meeting. We have $849,537 budget authority for the cemetery, for the columbarium and communal shelter projects. We have $568,778 in landfill for the Caterpillar and the Cell 5. It's the first loan payments on those. $220,000 additional budget authority in wastewater fund for franchise fees that gets paid to general fund. And then on transfers, we've got the $720,000 to the zoo from general fund so they can start their projects. I stand for any questions.
All right, any questions? Yes, Councilor Kennard?
So in the year year previous, we received an update from Juanita regarding UFO Festival. I was just wondering, do we anticipate to hear anything on that coming up?
Counselor Kennard, yes, we can provide an update as to where we're at. Real quick, we've contracted with the Liberty, which is a local venue here, to contract some talent. The request that is included in this budget will cover some of that, but also some larger entertainment interactive experiences just for the 75th. I don't anticipate my request will be similar next year, just because we want to make this year's festival a big impact.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or concerns? I have one question. Ms. Davies, you mentioned that their part of revenue was income from rental from the home that was received by the library. Do you know is it the intent that we're going to continue renting that home, or are we going to get that thing sold?
Mr. Chair, our intent is, of course, to release the property to the public, and we are working on the whole method. I know Todd Versiglio with our property management side has been working with all of our real estate groups, because we have to narrow it down to one to put their name out there in order to sell the home. So that is there. We are working that. So until we can get to that level,
Right.
just kind of covers the house. So.
Wonderful. I just wanted to know, I'm one of those that my opinion is the less land or the less buildings that the city owns, the less upkeep, the less. So I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, the process takes a lot longer when we don't get to just say, well, I like this realtor, let's move forward. Okay, that was my only question there. Anyone else? All right, I will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to move that we recommend approval of resolution 22XX, approving budget adjustments for fiscal year ending June 30, 2022 to the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second by Counselor Kennard to place this resolution amending the budget for the fiscal year ending in June 30, 2022 by increasing the revenue and offsetting the expenses to the funds as presented in the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All not in favor say no. It passes. My brain just went on fog right there, and I thought, what am I supposed to say? Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Davies. I hope you're getting a feeling better.
Well, yeah, I feel better than I sound, so.
Okay, wonderful. Well, your staff is enjoying this. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All right. So let's move on to consideration of approving the fiscal 2021 audit, this year's audit, last year's audit, this year's audit.
This is the City Council received authorization to release the 2021 audit report on December 27th, 2021. The State of New Mexico audit rule requires that the final audit be presented to the governing authority of an agency at a public meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. The audit report will be presented to City Council on the February 10th. New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration requires that the governing body also approve a resolution showing acceptance and approval of the audit, along with a corrective action plan for the findings in the audit. We had two findings in the audit. The first one is the control over cash disbursements during the internal audit test over cash disbursements. One of 25 transactions totaling $5,120 had a purchase order that was dated after the date of the invoice. Purchasing will start holding mandatory trainings to all staff that have the ability to requisition for purchase orders. They'll be given a handout on how to enter requisitions in order to receive a purchase order before the actual order is placed or an invoice is received. Attendance will be kept for the date and the time of attendance. The staff that are trained will have to sign an acknowledgement that they were trained, and the purchasing department's always available to help staff through the process. The second finding is the municipal court lack of segregation of duty. It's a material weakness. During the audit, it was noted that the municipal court clerk is responsible for making the daily deposits and maintaining the financial records, which include preparing the monthly bank reconciliations. Performing these tasks caused a breakdown of internal controls over the municipal court accounting. The court was notified of the finding and asked to be present at this meeting and at the city council meeting. It's the court's responsibility to address the segregation of duty findings.
And let me stop you for just a moment. We'll discuss this later, but I did have a very good, long conversation with Judge Seske yesterday. Judge Seske has apologized. He has, I think, a trial at this time right now, or there was something that was keeping him from being able to attend and to speak on this. We do have a memo that was, I've just placed before you, that explaining their thoughts on the audit, and we'll go over that here in a moment. But I just wanted to throw that in since we're discussing it. Go ahead.
Next slide, please. Consider approval of resolution 2209 approving the audit and the corrective action plan. The resolution's been submitted to legal, and we recommend approval of this so we can move into 2022.
Hey, all right. Do we have someone from the firm to speak?
They will be presenting at council because this has to go before full.
Okay, so they will present before council. I thought they would be with us today. Okay. So what we are in essence doing, just for clarification, we have to approve an audit. We don't get to choose at the end whether or not we accept. We don't approve an audit. The audit's been done. It's not being approved. We have to accept it. I don't really know what would happen if we denied it. The facts are the facts, and that's where they are. I will say this on the start on this, that for a municipality of our size, and for the unbelievable things that hit on a daily basis with our finances, whether with income or whether it deal with expenses, we're in great shape, and I really appreciate this. Is actually this is a very, very good audit. I know that there's been, and I'll speak to that here in a moment, about some things that have been said that I just want to correct. But let's just go ahead and start off, and let's just discuss the two audit findings if we could, or do you want to talk about any of the other areas?
No.
I have no questions on the other areas. I always, when I look at an audit, I read the very front of it, get an explanation of the audit, then I go straight to the back. And then I sandwich in between with the rest of it. So if we can talk about the two findings so that we can just have clarification for public on the financial statement, on the controls over cash disbursements. And by the way, this is what the audit says. The finding does not rise to the level of significant deficiency. I think that's critical to understand. That does not rise to the level of critical significant deficiency. So if we could just talk about that for just a moment, just to explain. Do you want to do that, Joe?
I'm happy to cover that one.
You come up a little closer so we make sure they hear.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, committee. So this finding here, and the audit is broken into two sections. One is the critical pieces of an audit. Those are the ones that we have to check every year for that. Then there's this less critical area of the checks and balances, making sure that all of our pieces are there. What happened with this one is that when they were doing their testing, is that we essentially had a department purchase material before they received a PO, and that's a no-no within the system. So the whole idea is that the PO comes first so that they have the authorization to spend, then they go out and commit to purchase. So this one, between the conversations, and this was a request to a support department from one department to the other department. This department went out and made the purchases. This department was to do the PO, and they did not cross. And so essentially that's what happened. We see these every once in a while come up. I know we've had some in the past. There's not very many that happen here. And we believe that with what the plan is for the finance department as to how to fix this, we should see fewer or none in the future.
You're not going to have this figure, and I'm being a little sarcastic when I say this, but how many purchases do we make here?
I believe the technical term is a bunch.
A whole lots and lots.
And yeah, and I mean, and you just saw our budget adjustments as well too. That's just the ones that were in the budget already. Everything from every penny gets accounted for.
Every dime, every cent.
Yep.
Every staple, every piece of paper, every all of it. And so I just want to make sure that public understands and recognizes. We recognize and accepting this, we're recognize the finding, but at the same time, we're really proud that we don't have what could potentially be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of this finding. And through the ones that they researched, they found this one. So, all right. So is there any questions from committee? Okay, anyone else? Yes, Madam Counselor, go ahead.
So just to kind of expand upon what Mr. Nebb was talking about, these are, in this area of the audit, these are just testing our, the actions against our policy. This is not any violation of anything other than our own practices. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, if we can move on to the other finding, which is the municipal court lack of segregation of duties. And that was considered a material weakness. Do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to share with, maybe explain what it is first, and then I'll talk about my conversation with Judge Seski.
All right. So, and you need to start with understanding that the municipal court is kind of a separation of our municipal governmental system. We have an elected official. We have an entity that operates a little more independently than the rest of the city as to how the processes go. They are also a small group. And so what this finding here is it just goes into the checks and balances of the fund and of the individuals that are assuring that there is no impropriety within the system, so that if one person takes cash, then somebody checks to make sure that that cash was taken, and then somebody takes it to the bank and everything. That's essentially the really layman's kind of style with what's happening here. So the idea right now, because they have such a small group, they have too many of those duties listed to one individual employee, and it needs to be further separated out in order to ensure that the checks and balances are there to protect the opportunity for something that could go wrong. There is nothing wrong at the municipal court today. We believe that all the numbers are good.
No accusations.
No accusations or anything. I think the whole idea, and this is why this part of the audit is very important to us, is it is testing the systems. Just like Councilor Kennard said, we're testing our systems to assure that nothing bad could happen.
Sure. A protection.
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, I did want to call, I reached out to Judge Seski yesterday as just one elected official to another, because there is that separation of powers, if you would be, between the judicial and with us. And I wanted to give him the opportunity to be able to come in and to share with us if he desired to. He had a trial or something that kept him from coming. He did write a memo. I have it here. Since Councilor Kennard, since you are not able to have one there with you, I apologize. They're here on the desk. I'm just going to read. I'm not going to go through all of the example here, but I'll just read this very quickly. It says to the Roswell City Finance Committee, Committee Chair and Councilman Perry, dear members, I've been informed that the committee will be reviewing audit findings concerning the municipal court, noting a specific concern that the court administrator is responsible for making daily deposits and maintaining the financial records of the court. This has been labeled as a lack of segregation of duties. The recommendation of this finding is that an individual other than the court administrator perform the monthly bank reconciliation on the municipal court bank accounts. While the municipal court does have questions and concerns about this year's audit process and disputes any inference that the court is not in compliance with state statutes, we have no issue with making adjustments to the court administrator's duties to satisfy the audit finding. We are confident that continued discussions between the court and city management will resolve our questions and concerns. In conversation with Mrs. Davies of the city finance, she provided information to the court regarding general accepted accounting principles, which we have reviewed and have implemented. The municipal court has made internal changes to deposit procedures where a deputy county court clerk is assigned to make the court's daily deposits, thus removing the responsibility from the court administrator. The municipal court fully complies with the requirements of reports and record keeping provided in 1978 NMSA Chapter 35-14-7. I've attached to this letter a copy of the previous monthly submission so that members of the committee may appreciate the amount of financial detail that the court collects to provide to the municipality on a monthly basis. As you are aware, the municipal court's records, to include records of daily deposits and monthly reports and remittance, are matters of public record and available for review or inspection by any member of the public upon request. I would like to extend an invitation to members of the council to visit the municipal court, meet with our staff, and ask any questions that you may have on how the municipal court conducts its operations on a daily basis. I am confident you will find the municipal court is operating with great efficiency and professionalism. The Honorable Joseph H. Seski, who's given us this memo. So just to wrap it up in a nutshell from our conversation yesterday, though Judge Seski may not completely agree with the finding, he recognizes that it is a finding and that we can't change an audit. We can't do that. So he feels he has taken the steps to be able to correct this finding. So I will turn this memo over to our legal department so that they can review, and to Ms. Davies as well, so that we can just make sure that what the judge has done to try to take action to fix this is indeed going to meet the expectations that the audit is giving. Judge Seski was very willing, as we spoke on the phone, to do whatever's necessary to make these corrections. So that this finding will not be found again on the next audit. So we'll work forward from there. Okay. Any questions or thoughts, Mr. Mayor?
Is this adjustment, do you believe, sufficient to address the needs or the findings of the audit?
With what he read, yes.
The reason why I ask that is a deputy clerk would be under the supervision of the court administrator. And I'm concerned that there's enough separation to ensure independence.
The underlined area is pretty much their actions to correct.
I still think it'll be good.
Okay.
We'll review it with our audit firm as well too and confirm that is.
And Mr. Chair, councilors, Mayor, we will be providing this memo documentation to our auditor so that when he does present it at the council meeting in the following week,
He'll be able to speak to it.
He can speak to that as well.
Okay. And then ultimately this all goes to the state DFA, and DFA
State auditor
blesses it or says, no, it's not acceptable.
Correct.
That's correct.
Right.
Are any other questions or concerns from committee members? Questions or concern from any of the other? Okay. I just wanted to say as well before we vote, because I was not present at the forum. I don't get the newspaper all of the time. So, but I did receive 2 phone calls asking me, evidently, that the county gets awards or something because of their audits, which I'm grateful that they're getting those. That is That is an honor for them to be able to get that because of having good audits. They were asking, why does the city not get awards? Why is the city not getting special certificates or recognition of appreciation as the county is? So upon looking at that, the associations of counties are the ones who are acknowledging that the counties are doing well. It's something that the Association of Counties has chosen, not the state auditor, not the Department of Finance, not the Roundhouse at all. This is something that the Association of Counties does to recognize counties that are doing well. This is not a knock at the New Mexico Municipal League. Municipal League has a whole lot more cities and villages and towns to deal with versus the number of counties. And it's just not something that we have chosen as a league to spend excess amount of time on to give certificates or awards for cities, towns, pueblos, whatever it may be that are doing well. We are very confident that if that was the case, that our walls would be full of certificates. And I believe, as a matter of fact, that we believe that things are going so well that we may potentially in the future look at national things as well.
Yeah, Matt, Mr. Chair, I believe that's correct. So because the Municipal League actually doesn't have a program of their own in order to recognize that financial expertise, what we have been working on, how we've been building our budget books, our annual reports and everything, is to go after more of a national honor through the GFOA, which is the Governmental Finance Officers Association, and seek the acceptance of that. Within that award is that you put the budget into layman's terms so anybody can understand it. You show all the general accounting practices within that. We believe that's more of an honor for us, at least, in order to be recognized to that level. So I believe we're really, really close. We were hoping to get through the Tyler system turnover, bring all these other systems on track, and then we would be going out and seeking that. So
there we go.
So there we go.
Just wanted to, I just don't, and I would not have necessarily brought that up except for I did get some people questioning me, why are we not? So I felt like we needed to respond to that to the public.
Let me just say that the Municipal League does so much work, like you say, 106 municipalities as opposed to 33 counties. But nonetheless, the Municipal League does not award for complying with state statute. And that's what it was. So above and beyond, in some cases, yes. But when you do what you're supposed to do, I'm sorry, the league just doesn't recognize doing what we're supposed to do.
It's sort of like in my home, my kids came to me one time. They were at school, and a young man at school had a big wad of cash, and he was buying everybody pizza and stuff at the lunchroom and stuff at their school. And they said, "Where'd you get that money?" And they said, "Well, it's our allowance." And so my kids came home and asked me what an allowance is. And I said, it's something you do not receive. And they asked why. And they said, shouldn't you reward us for, I said, you do get a reward for taking out the trash. You do get a reward for keeping your room clean. You get hot water, you get a bed to sleep in, and you get a nice meal on the table. That doesn't make me a mean parent. We still do things for our kids, for accomplishments in life, but we have expectations, and they meet them, and we're proud of them for meeting them. But and I'm not trying to downplay our county getting recognition. I'm proud of Travis County getting recognitions, and kudos for that. I just want to try to clear the air as to why the city's not getting them, because there are no awards for us to receive. So just wanted to clear the air on that. Yes, sir.
Good work is its own reward. Ooh. Good work is its own reward. We expect nothing less than good work from our staff, and they generally speaking provide it. So I hate, there are so many, there are so many organizations and things that are all out there looking for, let's pat somebody on the back for doing their job, and certainly there's a time and place for recognizing people who've gone above and beyond, or people who've had long service, those kind of things, which are super important. But let's not waste a lot of city time chasing certificates that go on walls that nobody cares about. Let's spend our city's resources on getting the work of the community done. I yield.
And last but not least, I'd just like to say, let the minutes please reflect that in the packet on pages 30, on page 30 there and 31, on looking at these things, we do have a corrective action plan. And these findings were very, very basic, very simple and very quick to be able to deal with and fix. So we're proud, and I just want to say to staff, thank you. Y'all are the ones who allow us to be able to go to bed at night knowing it's getting done and getting done correctly. So thank you. All right. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to accept.
Yeah, I'll change that word to accept.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend the full council resolution 22XX to accept the fiscal year audit 2021.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. And we look forward to the presentation by our auditing firm at the regular meeting. Thank you, Mr. Nebb, as well. Let's consider the resolution to determine the determination of uncollectible accounts and the removal from accounts receivable. Page 152 in your packet.
New Mexico Statute, Chapter 3 for municipalities 3-37-7 states that there's a determination of uncollectible account removal from accounts receivable if the finance officer of a municipality states the manner in which the utility account or any unsecured account has been incurred, the effort made to collect the utility account or unsecured account, and to locate the debtor, that the utility account or unsecured accounts have been uncollectible for a period of more than 4 years, and that in his opinion, the utility accounts or unsecured account is uncollectible. The governing body of a municipality can, by resolution, remove the uncollectible accounts or unsecured accounts from the list of accounts receivable. The city currently has 4,046 bills that total $412,972.97 in unpaid water, sewer, and sanitation charges. The dates of those bills range from 2008 through 2017. In the collection attempts that we've made, pretty much most of them have been the bills being returned as undeliverable with no forwarding address. And these bills have been uncollectible for over 4 years. So we are requesting a reduction in accounts receivable of the $412,972.97. The resolution has been submitted to legal for review and we recommend approval. Any questions?
All right, so just generally speaking, we're not just trying to wipe the slate clean with people from last month, 6 months ago that are still living in the homes that we're required by statute to collect on. These were anything shy of hiring a private investigator to go to Florida or to Miami.
Have against Florida.
Well, no, I have nothing against Florida. I'd like to be there right now. Everybody was so excited about the snow. I am not a fan of snow at all. I moved here for a reason. But if they're living in New Hampshire, we're not going to send someone to it will cost us more than $412,972.97 to try to collect these than it is to get it. And also, let me say, a lot of this, as I was speaking to staff, if someone did pay a bill off, and then they moved and they thought everything was taken care of and they moved, Well, but there was 4 or 5 days, a week that they were still in the house, and there was another bill coming forward that they weren't expecting or seeing, and then we can't find them to be able to get that to them. And then there's late fees that start getting attached to it, and those start getting, and that keeps going up. So we're not looking at probably $412,972 of water. It's water and fees and other things as well. This is just a record keeping.
And Mr. Chair, I'll add just 2 or 3 other pieces to this as well too. We discovered this as we were going through looking at those impacted by COVID and how we can utilize some of those funds in order to help make sure those that are negatively impacted had an opportunity for that. And then we discovered that we were carrying a lot of this on the backside as well too. This has a negative impact on our budgeting, on our accounting as well too, because we carry essentially this debt within our system. So as we are not able to find the individuals anymore in order to make a collection, we're asking to go ahead and waive it off and let it go for what it is. And that'll improve a lot of the other pieces we have. Eventually, we will be coming forward on those accounts that were impacted by COVID, but this has nothing to do with it. I think you said it really well. This has no impact on anybody currently a customer with the city of Roswell. And it's just that we have a 4-year window in order to that we can be probably we can collect that money very easily within the 4 years. Once you get outside of that, it gets more difficult as you go. And as you can tell, this is 9 years of uncollected accounts that we're cleaning up.
And as well, we are looking into with the American Rescue Plan of working on those current customers as well that were affected by COVID. So we're working on all of this. The only other thing I would say is I think I know Councilor Stubbs will remember. I'm not sure if you were on the council time, but maybe you were when we had to do a similar thing with the municipal court with fines from way back in the 70s, 80s, 90s. And some people were even probably deceased and you're not going to be able to collect from. So we had to, there comes a point where our numbers are not going to balance correctly because of what's owed. So to really get a good view of what we're dealing with, we have to remove these things from the.
And Mr. Chair, I think the intent of finance right now and utility billing and everything is to annually look at this and look at the uncollectible that is in the past rather than save it up and do 9 years at one time.
That's very wise. I appreciate that. Anything?
Yeah, just to your points, but I think it looks bigger than it really is because it's the aggregate of 9 years and 4,000 bills. And if you really spread that out, you're talking about bills that are just probably, if I did the math correct, which I probably didn't, they're a little bit, maybe $100, a little bit less per thing. So to think about spending any more time or energy per each bill, if this was one bill, one person we were going after, it'd be a completely different picture. But
we'd hire an investigator.
We would absolutely hire that investigator, send them to Florida.
I'll go with
and send you with them.
Okay.
You can't come back until you bring this up. But
Yes.
but I think that it is important is that the reason why that looks scary is because it's an aggregate number of many years and thousands of bills. Now, I can't imagine any staff has this number readily available, but as a percentage of the total income of utilities over those years, I'm sure it's a fraction of a percent. And so it's because it's all been totaled up. So I'm glad that you guys are taking care of this and
cleaning books,
cleaning the books up and because it's extra work that you carry on and on. You just got to move on and move forward.
Councilor Kenner, do you have anything to say or ask?
Yes, I do. I was just curious how we got away with 2008, only $68 uncollected. What we were doing back then, maybe we need to do again. I'm kidding. It's just joke. But
yeah,
that's pretty good. What I wanted to ask was, so are these people, maybe they're small bills, maybe they're bigger bills, but are these people flagged in our system that if they were to come back to try and request water service, that it would notify someone or?
Good question. Let's see if we can get an answer to that.
Right now, yes, if they come back and want to be a customer, they would have to pay their back balance before we would.
Even with
establish.
us wiping this from, yes, ma'am. So we have the technology to be able to do that if they were to walk in, even though the clerk may not know who they are, the system's going to tell them that this is a
That ability would be there.
wonderful. Does that answer your question, Counselor?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. Good question. All right, anyone else? I'll entertain a motion. And can I say, let's put this on regular, just because there's going to be questions about this.
All right, so we're on number 7 here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to full council the approval of resolution 22XX, approving the determination of uncollectible accounts and the removal from accounts receivable.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a motion and a second to send to full council with the recommendation to approve. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All against, nay. Motion passes. All right. Moving on to the next. Let's go to number 9. We're skipping number 8. We just need a little bit more work on that. I appreciate the work that's been done on that. We're not trying to just put stuff off. We just want to get things finalized there. So number 9, considering the ratification of Constructors, Inc. to perform the demolition services for the Roswell Air Center large hangar project in the amount of $613,638.42.
Scott, going to take the chair to councilors. What you have before you is a request to ratify the amount that Councilor Perry just mentioned. I won't say it again. For demolition of asphalt and concrete in the area where the Ascent hangar is to be built. This is a CES contract engaging Constructors, Inc., who's already on site at the airport. Due to the scope of the project and time constraints with Ascent, we moved that direction to take care of the time constraints and go with CES that way. So that's why it's before you today, and we recommend approval. And I'll stand for questions.
All right. All right. So that's where we are. Any questions, discussion, comments?
If you'd like, Mr. Chair, I'll add just a little bit more to that as well too. So we've been working through this project. Ascent as a business had some conditions that they needed to meet. And so as we were developing out the program and the project and everything, we ended up breaking this project up into demo, horizontal, and vertical. So there's 3 phases of building this large hangar that will be 350 jobs to Roswell in the next few years. And so the whole idea about this thing was I guess I'll go back to the adage, time is money. And so to the business, they've got their commitments, they've got all their pieces together. They just need our help to get through there. We went to the CES system in order to move faster. So we've essentially broken this project up into 3 legs. And that's why we are asking to do this through the CES. We'll be utilizing CES for the demo plus the horizontal. And then, of course, the vertical is all done by the company itself as they construct the hangar. So we're trying to work hand in hand with that. I think the challenge with this is the number of cooks that we have in the kitchen. We have a big kitchen, just so you know, large hangar, big kitchen. And so we believe that this is the most appropriate. And so we headed in this direction in order to meet Ascent's conditions that they needed to meet.
All right.
Just one other
Yes,
piece of information,
Mr. Fuentes.
Mr. Chair and councilors, that this cost for this project will be reimbursed through the state appropriation from the county.
Yes,
With the exception of the CES fees. They don't cover CES fees for
Correct.
any of our
correct.
projects.
Right. So did you hear that, Councilor Kenner?
Yes, I had a quick question, Mr. Chair, for Mr. Nebb. How many
Yes, ma'am.
jobs did you say that is going to bring to Roswell?
They're right off the bat, within the first year, there's 150. The total that are coming to Roswell is 350 over the next 4 years.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was understood, because there have been some concerns about big jobs coming to Roswell, and so thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Yes, Counselor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say thank you to the staff. Say thank you to obviously the SEMP for continuing to work with this. And like you said, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, you know. Thank you to the EDC and the work they've helped with it. Thank you to the mayor and his attention to the airport over the years. I'm really thrilled that we're at this phase, and it's been a long road, but you know, I think something that's about this council, we've really been working hard on trying to turn the corner in a lot of our different operations. You know, we have the zoo that we've turned the corner on, and we're going in a good direction with. You know, we've got a great director there. We've put some money into it. We've got some new exhibits coming in. We're improving the animals. Airport is obviously something that has been on a lot of people's mind for a long time, and it's been a long time since we built any kind of hangar out there. And this is an amazing accomplishment. And I really hope that you know, it took a long time. It took longer than anybody wanted it. There was a lot of things, but you know, in some ways, if the generations don't pass down the knowledge, it gets lost, you know, and I don't think the city has ever really built anything out there this big anyway. So we're cutting our teeth, so to speak, on this project. And hopefully this project, we get this one, the next one, we're gonna get this one done, and I think it's gonna be a great project, but the next one's gonna go even easier and even faster. And this is gonna start the growth that I think that a lot of people have seen the potential out there, but this has only happened because of the dedication and the commitment and the bulldog staying on it, because it's easy to be like, well, that's gonna happen someday and go home at night. But staying on this and not letting it go, keep fighting to get a new hangar at the airport, which we desperately need. And again, I do want to say thank you to the mayor for his bulldoggedness, and that's one of his traits, for better or for worse, his bulldoggedness of hanging on to this. Anytime there's a compliment, it's always got to be couched.
I know.
An insult. Him staying on, you know, and just continuing to keep the eye on the ball, so to speak. You know, I want to go and working with all this stuff. I appreciate all the other counselors. We've been fighting for this, obviously, your staff out there at the airport. I'm thrilled that we have I see you're looking at the postcard right there for the groundbreaking ceremony. Man, of all the groundbreakings that I've been to, that's the one I'm most excited about, because that's gonna mean so much. You know, not just this project, but we have been working, and again, I want to give Joe one more kudo. You know, we've been working on getting our city staff in a place where they can do this, where they can make these kind of projects happen, and you can't do that overnight. You know, I think sometimes when you look from the outside, you look at something like that, and you're like, well, why don't they just do this? Well, this idea is so simple. But from a idea that you have over drinks to getting execution in anything is difficult, and having to do all the constraints that we have to do as a government makes it even more difficult, you know. And so I appreciate that everybody's got their eye on the ball. We stayed on it. We'll keep working on it. Let's hopefully we don't stumble here on this last lap. I think we're looking good, though. I mean, every time I walk into Joe's office, I'm like, I'm nervous he's going to come to me and say, well, the airport thing, the hangar deal fell apart. I'm like, ugh. So, but I appreciate that. I cannot emphasize enough that I believe that we're not only getting a hangar, but we've cut our teeth and we've learned how to do this. And it's going to make it that much easier the next time that we want to do something like this. And I think we want to do more of these, as many as we possibly can, because there's plenty of room out there, and it's going to help the community. I think we have a great service and a great opportunity to provide to the aerospace community with our asset out there. So I just wanted to say that, and I'll probably say that 20 more times as we get closer to this, but for now I yield. Thank you.
Councilor Kenner, do you have anything?
No, I'm just excited that we actually have something tangible, and we're moving forward from plans. Thank you.
Wonderful. Mr. Mayor, yes.
Well, I'm going to jump in. I rarely do that, but I want to put this in perspective. This is in fact a major project. I would call it the logical successor to the rebuilding of the roof on 1083, where the paint hanger, Dean Baldwin. That was an $8 million project, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Fuentes. And that was a huge endeavor to address a decade-long neglect of that air center. But I want to add a couple of points, though. Number one, I think Councilor Roebuck kind of pointed at that, or someone did, about too many cooks in the kitchen. And I think one of the greatest breakthroughs we've had in the last 60 days was we really narrowed that down. These are now discussions between Ascent, the city staff, and Armstrong Consulting, our contractor for engineering services. I think it makes it much smoother, much cleaner, much easier. We're able to identify and resolve problems. And I don't want to conclude this without acknowledging the success the Air Center has had throughout this whole time. Mr. Stark, just a quick question. How many AOA badges do we currently have out there?
Well over 700, close to 800.
Each one of the, and can anyone get on the fence inside the secure area without an AOA or SIDA badge?
Not even the mayor.
Not even the mayor, because the mayor doesn't have one.
Thank God.
And the point I'm making is we're talking 800 people working there today. Not 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. We're talking now. And I think that the city Air Center staff doesn't get the credit for what an economic engine has become. Now, this is an improvement. Don't get me wrong, a significant, very important improvement. But I think this is a trend that's building on success. So I just wanted to put that out there, acknowledge the hard work of Mr. Nebb, Mr. Fuentes, and Mr. Stark.
Thank you. All right, and I'll just say there is a groundbreaking coming up on February the 12th at 11 o'clock a.m. there at the Air Center. I think we are expecting representation from the fourth floor in Santa Fe, and then probably representations from EDC and other entities as well. So the city's very excited about that groundbreaking coming forward. Any other discussion? All right, I will entertain a motion. Regular agenda, if we could.
Of course. We're on number 9.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to full council the ratification of Constructors, Inc. to perform demolition services for the Roswell Air Center large hangar project in the amount of $613,638.42.
We have a motion and we have a second that we send full council with the recommendation to approve the ratification of the construction and corporate of them to perform the demolition services in the amount of $613,638.42. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the aye. All opposed by the same sign. Councilor Kennard, we did not hear a response. If you can say yay or nay.
Yay.
Okay, that is 3 in favor. Motion passes. We'll move on. I need about 3 minutes. Okay, it's 10:20. Roughly give me about 3 minutes and then we will jump right back in here, okay?
Little water skills.
Yeah, I was
Meeting. If I could bring us back into our meeting. We're going to move into, now it is 10:22, as the record can reflect that we're moving back into our meeting at 10:22. And at this time, we're going to consider the moving forward of we're considering the 4 new John Deere Gators utility vehicles.
Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Chair and committee members and staff. I apologize for my abstract being on the wrong format. It has the same information, however. So the Parks Department, we've talked about this before, they've created 4 crews to handle parks maintenance. And currently to spray for bugs and for weeds, they're using handheld sprayers that they have to refill 1 million times a day. So what they'd like to move to is 90-gallon sprayers that they can haul on UTVs. UTVs, however, most of them only have a 400-pound capacity in the bed. And so I went place to place in Roswell looking for utility vehicles. John Deere makes one that has 1,000-pound ability in their bed that's still a smaller unit. It's not like a 4-seater or a 6-wheeler or something. And so they also have the ability to come with the sprayer and the 12-foot boom. And so it's just a one-stop shopping. And so we got quotes. They're attached to in your packet, and they're also street legal. So once they fill them up at the Parks Department, they can drive around and do what they've got to do. There's a picture of it, and the ones that we spec'd out has a roof, so they're not sitting out in the hot sun. Also, the sprayer is on some sort of rails, so it's easily removed in that vehicle. And so they can actually use those for other purposes as well. The contractor that we're going to use is Pecos Valley Equipment, and they have a contract with a state price agreement with the state, and they've given us a quote for $63,093.16 for these 4 Gators. So I would stand for any questions.
Do they do it in alien green? I'm just kidding.
It's kind of an alien green.
I'm just
I'd love to be able to work with the local vendors.
absolutely.
I love that they have a state price agreement. So
And the ability when something goes wrong to be able to have someone here.
Yes.
I'll also say that this is going to be, I was speaking to Mr. Matthews about this earlier, and this is really going to give us a better accounting of what's happening where and when, because these different crews will have the assigned equipment to be able to get out there and get the job done, and we'll be able to more efficient and better tracking and get the job done. And so this will benefit us significantly.
When you think about how spread out our city is,
Absolutely.
they got a lot of ground to cover.
I think that we'll visibly see a difference. I think we'll visibly see a difference in our community by these. So this is definitely an asset for us. All right. So Jim, did you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I want to let you guys know too. Things have opened up enough. We actually have 6 employees trained to actually use the equipment.
Fantastic.
There for a while, we had 1. Now we have 6.
That's right.
So we'll be able to utilize this equipment a lot better.
That's great. That's great. Wonderful. All right. So yes, Councilor Roebuck.
Two questions. They're both kind of silly, but here we go. First one's is, man, I wish we had 4 of these things to spray for mosquitoes. Just putting that out
They're
there.
going to spray for mosquitoes.
These
It's
will-
going to be for vector control.
Oh, these will be for vector control.
We use them for everything.
Okay, that's good to know, because that was something that we came up
So 2 of
in.
the sprayers will be dedicated to herbicide, and 2 of the sprayers will be dedicated to pesticide.
Okay.
Vector control is part of that.
We do that at night.
Right, but the county has done it in the past. This will be the city having the ability, which I like us having the ability, because that has been one issue. I know with a lot of my constituents, you know.
Y'all would just eat more garlic. You'd be.
Yes.
I don't have a problem with this.
Especially down, you know, in the summer months where, you know, a lot of my constituents, they're not able to be outside down in the
Sure.
Spring River area just because the mosquitoes are just too bad, you know, and it's that time of year where you want to be outside. You know, there's no,
What's great is these are small enough that they can go on the trail.
yeah, that's great.
When they see puddles and they see the larvae and all of that, they can just spray.
Well, I'm glad I asked the question because my assumption of it wasn't for that because I knew that the county did that. I'm glad that our Parks Department will now have the ability to do vector control.
Taking the initiative, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to calling my counselor next year when mosquitoes come.
You do not live in my ward.
Yes, I'll call you anyway.
No.
The other thing I thought I had was, you mentioned that you like working with local vendors. And maybe we've done something like this. I don't know. But I would like to throw it out there is that maybe that you guys might consider doing some sort of like workshop for local, because I think for a lot of local vendors, doing government contracts is intimidating. We'll just use the word intimidating.
Well, when I went to Zia has is on a state price agreement, or GSA, one of the two. John Deere is, and also Kubota.
Sure.
So that's three that.
But maybe even beyond tracks. I'm just thinking in generally speaking, I think it would be great if the city had some sort of initiative where we invited potential local vendors of all types saying, hey, just so you know, how does the city gives out lots of contracts every year. Where do you need to look for them? What do you need to do to qualify for them? What are the pitfalls of the RFP process? Because I think if we educated and provided that education we might get some more local vendors, might keep some more of that money, people actually who would be good and might actually be applying for more of these things and get better competition as well, get better pricing. So just the thought I had when you mentioned that you like working with local vendors, I'm like, yeah, let's bring that. So I thought that was a joke question when I was asking about mosquitoes, but apparently that's right on. So I'm thrilled. I thought I asked it. Thank you, Chair. I yield.
Councilor Kennard, do you have anything?
Sorry, my button wasn't working.
That's okay.
No, I think this is great. And I was trying to figure out how to give Jim a hard time, but I don't have anything this morning. Sorry.
Oh, man. All right. Drink another cup of coffee. Okay. All right. Councilor Stubbs, do you have anything? Okay.
So I mean, just to clarify, so I can tell constituents the city is acquiring, assuming this all goes through council, is acquiring 2 vehicles that will be equipped to all 4, but 2 of them will be equipped to handle vector control. Okay, that's great.
All right.
Let me send out some text. Right. I'll make citizens very happy.
I will entertain a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I moved that we recommend for approval the purchase of 4 new John Deere Gator HPX 815E utility vehicles for the Parks Department
To consent or full?
to full council.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second that we send to full council. The request, recommendation. Thank you, Councilor. The recommendation for the Parks Department to make the purchase of the 4 new John Deere Gators utility vehicles at the price listed of $63,093.16. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Did you hear me?
Say it again for us.
I voted in favor.
Okay, all right. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving to the next, and probably my favorite on the entire thing. I can't help, but every time I go to say Reuben, I can't help but think of the book of Genesis 49 and verse number 3. Jacob is dying and he's sitting all of his sons in front of him, and his eldest son is Reuben. He says, "Hey, Reuben, thou art my strong, thou art my might, excellency," and he talks about how great he is, and then he says, "But you're unstable as water." I don't know which end you are there. I'm going to say you're the excellency. But this is an exciting day for me. I have desired and pushed for this for so many years, and now we're going to get to do this. All right, we haven't voted yet, but present to us, Reuben. Tell us what we got, and both of you.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. We asked to consider approval to move forward with the Colin Berryman Committal Shelter Construction. Proposal designed by Robert Loftus, which is he's on the phone. So if we have any questions for him, he is available. Are you there, Rob?
I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to our committee meeting today. We'll let Ruben continue, and then at some point, we'll let you jump in here.
Okay. So in the past decade, we've seen the change in numbers for cremation burials. Again, I don't know if everybody here knows me. My name is Ruben Esquivel. I've been with the cemetery for 15 years. And so in the 15 years, I've seen the change in the demand in cremation burials. When I first started, I think we were doing maybe 3 to 1, 3 casket burial to 1 cremation. And in those years, it has really changed. I mean, at times we're almost 1 to 1. Okay. And so the demand is there. We've exhausted block 58, which is a section that's for cremation only. Last year, we opened a new block, 48A, which is strictly just cremations only. But all these cremations, we're talking in ground, okay? So now one thing that we have learned from General McBride Cemetery is that there we have 3 methods of burial. We have, of course, your traditional casket burial, you have your in-ground cremation, and you also have your niche burials, which is a column burial. Now, with that being said, it has been a great learning tool that we can reference to them. We are right now at 456 internments in McBride. And out of those, 230 of them are in the column burial. So you can't even compare. I mean, casket burials were like at 180 and in-ground cremation 46. So from there, we've learned how much impact that columbarium has made, for the veteran cemetery. Availability for that around town is minimal. I mean, you do have your churches, you have a funeral home, those places that do have columbariums. Of course, you are, I'm sure, restricted to having to be a member of these places. For example, I'll use St. Andrew's, Assumption Church, St. Peter's, which recently has built their own columbarium wall. So I believe this will be a great benefit to South Park Cemetery. It will make us more of a cemetery with a full service. South Park Cemetery right now does have casket burials, has mausoleum, which is above ground casket burial, and also in-ground cremation. Now, with that being said, we've opened that new block 48A. At South Park, we have what's known as a second rites burial, which you're allowed to do an interment of a cremation at the foot of a grave. Now, that in time is going to be exhausted, because you only allow 1 cremation at the foot of a father, mother, brother, etc. So with the high demand now, especially in the Catholicism, now accepting more the cremation, is where I see the numbers jumping up really high. This past year, unfortunately, we reached the 400 mark that I had never seen in my 15 years there, and we're there now. This past month, our numbers are still extremely high, just the same as they were back in 2021. So if any questions, I'm
jump in real quick.
Okay.
And you've already alluded to it. We already have families out there. But there's no place now, there's no niches for the future. We want to get everybody in one spot. And I know that some of the churches have these, but the rest of the relatives are out South Park. So this is another thing we need to do is make sure we can keep everybody together. So
something else that has not been said that is, in my opinion, just as vitally important. This is not just for the construction of columbariums, but also a committal shelter. And I know that is something fairly new to our area here in Southeast New Mexico. It is not something new across the board in the industry. If you're buried at the Veteran Cemetery in Santa Fe, they have what's called committal shelters that allows then for if you have the necessity, as we have seen burials starting to go up again, for more than one to be able to happen at the same time, even potentially. It allows more for if someone is having a casketed burial in the center, an existing block where there's headstones and footstones, and they're in a wheelchair, but they want to be at the gravesite of their husband or wife or child or whoever that has passed away. Getting to that gravesite is very difficult. This committal shelter allows for all that ADA. This allows for a permanent structure above head. I mean, we can go as far as we want to. I've been in committal shelters that they had ceiling fans even just to help with the breeze. I've been at 2 funerals here at South Park where people have passed out. We've had to call ambulances for before. Sort of odd watching an ambulance going into a cemetery, but it has happened before. But this committal shelter is going to be a great addition. And just because I know it's been brought up before, it's not going to be something we'll force people to use necessarily, but it is that option that is going to help our families significantly. And I am proud of this. I know from speaking with representatives within the funeral home industry here in town. We have 3 local funeral homes and other funeral homes from around the area that come into here. From speaking some of them within that profession, they recognize that these columbariums is a way that families are desiring to go. And I know families right now, right here in Roswell right now who have their loved ones sitting on a shelf in a closet somewhere waiting for public columbariums. They're not a member of the Lutheran Church or the Catholic Church or the Methodist Church. They've chosen not to use one that's maybe privately owned at a funeral home or something. They're waiting for these things. So I think this is a huge asset to us and at a great time now that we've got the American Rescue Plan, which this definitely fits within this objective. So do we have a presentation that we're going to hear from?
Have a presentation.
Wonderful. Robert, you're online here with us. Are you going to be giving the presentation?
I certainly can if Ruben would like me to.
Yes, I would.
He would like you to.
I think Ruben be very good at it.
He is unstable as water.
I've heard that. Well, good morning, Chairman, Mayor, committee members and staff, and anyone else on the call. I'm Rob Loftus from MRWM Landscape Architects. We've had the privilege of working on a few of your projects over the last few years, and I always enjoy working with the city of Roswell. So the South Park Cemetery, if you want to advance the slide. There we go. We were approached a few years ago about, looking at some sort of schematic layouts for Columbarium Plaza as well as the committal shelter. This is just a quick map showing where some of those possibilities might lie. We looked at maybe putting the Columbarium Plaza in the open space just south of the cemetery office. We can utilize some of that parking perhaps, and then not take away from future grave sales. By using that area. It can certainly go anywhere. We could look at moving closer to the entrance where some of those newer plots are being developed and there's available space that hasn't been sold. And then the committal shelter, I think you did a great job of describing all the advantages. It's something that is very popular with cemeteries. A lot of cemeteries have had them for a long time or are planning to install them. It just helps with all the ADA issues that you mentioned, helps with maintenance being allowed to continue on in different parts of the cemetery, as long as they're far enough to not disturb the service that might be at the committal shelter. So we looked at a couple of locations where that could occur, providing some parking and ADA access to the shelter. Next slide. So this just shows you kind of a proposed layout for the Columbarium Plaza. The idea is to create a nice, clean, ADA accessible plaza space with shade and landscaping where people can visit the Columbarium walls. The way this is planned is you could build a number of the walls as an initial construction. And then where you can see those small shrub plantings in the plan, those are designed that they could be retrofitted for future niches. So you can continue to build this facility out in the future as the niches are filled and more demand comes for more places to place cremains. Next slide, please. These are just some examples of some projects we've done. A lot of these are at national cemeteries, so that they're designed and built. They're designed to be built on site, so there is a precast sort of core for the niche areas, and then you add stone or brick to the outside. It's a very robust construction. It's designed to be here longer than any of us on the call, and not crack or settle or wear over time. Just being careful that we select materials that are going to be available in the future, and not some specialty stone where we can't match that decades down the line. And then you can see in that upper right-hand corner the idea that that landscape area, it's not complete yet, but that area behind the bench will have some shrubs, but it's also pre-designed to accommodate more niche walls in the future. So we'll kind of do something similar and provide that flexibility to add in the future. Next slide. These are just some examples of landscape and seating options that we can incorporate, and we'll discuss these during the design as we move forward. Next slide. This is just an example of a committal shelter. It's about 30 feet wide by about 48 feet long. Has a top that allows some breeze to come through it on the top. We would place benches as well as infrastructure, needed electrical, anything else so that services can be held under the shelter, and there's plenty of room for the family to sit and have those services done. Next slide. Just the overall costs. So we're looking at $40,000 in just sort of overhead testing, mobilization, permits and things like that from the contractor. The columbarium plaza itself, with the initial niche count of around 600 units, is just over $300,000. The committal shelter, including some parking, sidewalks and infrastructure, is about $230,000, and then another $38,000 in sort of landscape around both facilities, and then design fees for a total project cost of $850,000. There are some questions about, will the cost of the niches cover the cost of construction? The initial niche count of 600 units would give you a cost per niche of about $750, $800, depending on how bids come in. And that's a higher cost than full build out, because with that initial 600, you're building the sidewalks, you're putting in the landscape, building the plaza itself. So with a full build out of closer to 2,800 or 3,000 niches, that would bring your cost per niche down closer to about $400. And so, how much the cemetery or the city chooses to sell niches for is, basically whatever the market rate they decide upon. But keep in mind, those per niche costs do not include the savings and maintenance compared to mowing and watering and fertilizing a 600 grave size of a traditional in-ground plot. And so there's some efficiencies with the amount of maintenance that it takes, as well as efficiencies with the cost of labor to close a niche versus the full in-ground type cemetery. So that per niche cost can get lower the more things you consider and look at. And I think that's all we had in the presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Okay. Yes, sir. I was asking a question to one of the staff here while you were finishing up there. A couple of things that I've noticed that I wonder about, just a question. On the committal shelter there, is that, it was sort of hard to tell if you can go back to those slides for me, please. And the cemetery board has not given us a recommendation yet.
Yes,
You
it has.
have. Whoa,
We have one.
there you are.
Remember.
It's been a wonderful meeting here.
Thank you, Danny, for being here.
So Danny, yes, thank you. And I want to give you an opportunity to speak to us as well. On the committal shelter structure here, it's sort of hard to tell. Is the design here for a completely open shelter, or does this have a windbreak wall at one end? Does it have a lot of the shelters that I personally have been highly impressed with had on one end a break wall, but not just a break wall, but a break closet, if you would say, to where there was storage of chairs and different things that could be necessary for additional needs there at the committal shelter at one end. And then that also served as sort of a background wall behind the casket as well. So people weren't looking into the sun and those kind of things. Does this include that, or is this just a completely open pavilion?
So the design of the committal shelter is much less developed than the columbarium. So we were hired, like I say, I think it's maybe 3 years at this point, specifically for the columbarium design. And so we looked at a lot of different options and kind of hammered out a lot of the details. The committal shelter came up about a year ago and was just part of some initial conversations of including that in the project moving forward. So we haven't really gotten to that level of detail of how we want to orient this and those things. But the items you described are fairly typical. And I think those are things that we would work with the cemetery board as that design moves forward.
Okay, wonderful. And just my 2 cents worth, and I'm going to stay out of this as much as I can. Be able to recruit. I can zip my mouth and let them get things done because y'all are the experts, and I trust our cemetery board with their recommendations as well. I have always envisioned with keeping the committal shelter, especially in columbarium area, behind the offices for a couple of reasons. Number one, that's land we're never going to be able to utilize for in-ground burials because of infrastructure and different things that we have there for the offices. But also it gets everyone off of a main road and into an area so that people coming into the cemetery aren't concerned about being either blocked from getting in or from the uncomfortableness of having to pass right by a funeral. You always try to be respectful and stay away. And then the last thing I'll say is I have always considered, this is just my 2 cents worth, y'all do what's best, but the office, it has that specific stonework there. And I've just always sort of envisioned continuing that in with the committal shelter and the advancement of the columbarium as well. And that's just a 2 cents worth. And I think that stone will always be able to be found. But that's just a 2 cents worth for me. Mr. Fulkerson, come on up here and share with us what the cemetery board have to say.
Well, I'm just one of the members, and I wanted to come and support Ruben. We've been looking into this for approximately 3 years. And when I say one of the members, I'm one of the members of the cemetery board. And it's been a privilege to be a part of that committee and see what the firm has developed. When I first joined, Jason was a member of the cemetery board, and your insights that you just spoke of are invaluable. So I hope once this is approved and moving forward, you would be a part of some of those suggestions. I mean, you guys make great suggestions, and I'm sure the firm in Albuquerque has different things like that to choose from. But I just wanted to be here to suggest, support, and recommend this moving forward. We've been looking at it for over 3 years, and I think it'd be wonderful for our city.
Excellent. No, and I'll just say one other thing. If anybody is interested in sort of seeing one of these shelters to see professional columbariums, the closest place that I can think of to go to is to the Fort Stanton, the Maritime Veterans Cemetery up there. They have really upped the ante on that up there and produced a very, very nice area with a nice committal shelter. If you want to take a day's drive and just take a look at that, be a great example. I'm done talking. I'm ready to go home. Yes.
How many times have we said that?
If I may add one more thing.
Yes, sir.
You know, another great thing about having a committal shelter, of course, we live in land where the wind doesn't blow.
Yes.
So our current canopies that we use for our services are mobile. So anytime the wind gets up 17 to 20 mile gust, we don't put it out because it becomes a safety hazard, like panels flying off or something. Having a committal shelter, you know, we don't have to worry about that. So that's another great point. The place where we're talking about, you know, right there, right behind the office, it's surrounded by, Robert, can we go back to that one right there? So where you see that, the columbarium, the blocks surrounding, just adjacent to that construction, those are mature populated blocks. So with that being said, it's not quiet. It's not going to interfere.
You're not likely to interfere with other services.
Right, because of course the cemetery grows, you know, from the inside out. So all your outer blocks are where we are busy at the moment. So that location there is very quiet, very.
And the mature trees will help with windbreak as well. I did want to say that on the landscaping, let's not use Siberian elm or salt cedar.
Amen.
But no, those are good points, definitely, absolutely.
If I may add, sorry to interrupt, this was just a quick study, this plan we're looking at to see, you know, would these items fit? I think part of the design would be to better integrate the committal shelter with the columbarium plaza, which that effort isn't reflected here. And I agree that matching the stone of the building with some of the elements of the committal shelter and the columbarium plaza is a great idea that has a lot of merit. So.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Just real quick, just want to echo something that I think is very important in that in our environment, a simple cover is not a shelter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we get especially, you know, depending what time of day it is, we get harsh sunlight, you know, coming in. And so we definitely need some sort of, at least a basic, if not better, wall on one side and the appropriate side.
And as well, if you've ever seen our cemetery staff have to move those things, that's very time consuming. You have to be very careful of gravestones, headstones, footstones, and pulling those things around. I've watched them, and it's a slow process, and that's time saved to be able to spend in other areas that will be beneficial to all. All right, I'm going to be quiet. I think I am. Councilor Kennard, do you have anything else to say?
No, sir. I think you've covered everything. And more.
Thank you so much, Madam Member. All right, I will entertain a motion.
Fantastic. And before I move, I just want to say thanks that the city manager did not speak on this because we did not have to hear his joke about people dying to get in.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he didn't speak, so we didn't have to hear that joke.
Well, there's a worse one out there when Councilor Bob Maples was on the council. I'll never forget this as long as I live, and I can't wait. One day in heaven, I'm going to remind him he made this statement. They were having to take some trees down. And they were trying to determine it was going to be very expensive to get these massive trees out of the cemetery and somewhere else. And so the decision was made to potentially take an area of land that had a large hole and get those trees over there and burn them. And Councilor Maples said that would be cremating them, is what he said. So we'll move on. Give me a motion so we can move on.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I I move that we recommend to the full council, I'm looking at the agenda. I'm not sure if that's the best wording for the motion.
Right. Financial consideration on page 170 would probably be a good
Yeah, I
place
think that's, sorry.
to take your motion from.
170. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Okay. So Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to full council that we provide funding for the communal shelter and columbarium from the American Rescue Plan for $849,537.18 to full council.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Thank you so much for being here and sitting through this. Thank you.
I wanted to wait till you had acted upon this because I think something needs to be highlighted here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Neff. This is the first allocation.
Yes, sir.
Of the American Rescue Plan funds that we have received.
Second.
Zoo. Zoo, okay. But it represents the very cautious and deliberate procedure we must have because we cannot use those funds on anything, on everything. So I appreciate this committee taking this action. And what I wanted to throw out there is we still got to figure out what we're going to do with the rest of it.
And
Councilor Roebuck started that conversation a while back. We need to get back into it and resolve it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just say that I have already been in good conversations with our city manager, Mr. Nev, and also with Mr. Fuentes, that moving forward, we need to make a real strong look at the entire amount.
Yes.
Moving forward from here so that we're not piecemealing and then end up thinking we should have done something else. So those conversations have already started and we look forward to working together to get it done.
We need to do them in committee, I would argue.
But I wanted staff to be aware that they needed to get things together so we could move forward with that. All right, moving to the next so that we can get out of here soon. Consideration of the final design and engineering plans for the Great Blocks Main Street Roswell Market Walk project.
All right, Chair, members of the committee, this has been an ongoing project. We received grant funding to apply for these design plans. We've been working with Rob Loftus from MWRM for the last year. And so what we have today, they are going to present the final design plans that took over the last year with public participation, committee members, and yes.
Let me just interrupt just a second. I saw that, pull that down once again for the folks. Mr. Loftus, I still see you there. I'm sorry. Robert, I'm sorry. Earlier I should have said something. We appreciate the presentation and we're moving on into the next portion. Oh, you're presenting this one as well. Okay. I was afraid that you were just hanging on for this. So I apologize. I'll shut up. Go on.
No. He's going to give the presentation of the final design concept. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Loftus. We'll both be here if you have any questions.
Now, get at it. Go ahead.
All right. Hello again, everyone. Thanks for the time this morning. So as Juanita described, the Great Blocks project is from a grant through New Mexico Main Street, trying to reinvigorate some of our historic areas. It's been around about 5 years. They've awarded projects, multiple projects a year. Most of those have been built, completed with further funding from New Mexico Main Street, or they are slated to begin construction this year. So I want to emphasize that when we start to talk about costs at the end, that New Mexico Main Street has historically fallen up with significant construction dollars for these projects. So it's not something that the city would bear the brunt of if we would go to construction. So moving on, next slide, please. I just wanted to briefly talk about, why some of the elements in the plan set are there. These are the goals and opportunities described to us in the RFP and then with some of the initial public input. But creating an iconic kind of place for events in downtown Roswell that has a lot of shade, a lot of public art, has a variety of uses and a lot of flexibility for events of different sizes, a focus on sort of pedestrian amenities and lighting, parking, a performance stage, public restrooms, a variety of seating options, accommodations for food trucks and vendors if they want to be a craft show or something like that, coordinating with other projects, including the wayfinding project and future projects that may include things like the rail trail, and then some landscaping and water features and things like that. We talked a lot about, some of the challenges that we have too, the proximity to the railroad, the difficulty of crossing 2nd Street, the abundance of sort of industrial infrastructure and electric items in that area, budget, and how do we get people to this hidden project. So we analyzed all those things during the design process and reflected that in the plans. Next slide, please. So this is sort of an overall plan. As we went through the actual construction document process, things shifted and flexed and got refined, but this basic design concept is what is reflected in the final plans. Just so everyone knows, north is actually on the left-hand side of the sheet. So you can see 2nd Street there, you can see the large warehouse. And then the big white space in the center is the XL substation property. So this project is really focused on the space between XL and the Pirtle warehouse on the north, looking to create an event lawn in the center, focused on a stage, which is that number 5 red rectangle. On the opposite side of the lawn, number 11 is a large kind of communal dining / sort of beer garden feel place to eat from the food trucks. There's a small kids play area, number 1. There's also, we've created kind of like a more of a all ages type of play area that's in the final plans, things like cornhole or ping pong, things to do there. We have a screen wall against the rail yard, that's the number 19 up at the top of the page, with art incorporated, but still some fencing so you can see through to the trains going by. The overall design does have a strong railroad theme to kind of celebrate the railroad history of the area. Additionally, number 8, the kind of blue thing in the center of the page is a kind of a water feature, kind of a grand entrance when you walk in. Those orange elements are a large shade structure. And the idea is that we'd have infrastructure all the way around so that you could walk all the way around the lawn and visit vendors or booths while there's a performance going on in the center. Another important thing was looking at parking. So we do have some alley parking along the existing alley, but we're also looking at developing the gravel parking lot at the far south end across from Bone Springs Art Center as public parking, and then people could walk up the alley, which would become more of a pedestrian focused alley facility, or there's a secondary walk on the railroad track side that also serves as a maintenance and delivery walk. One of the challenges, you can see these red squares that are kind of rectangles and shapes that are all over the plan. Those are existing concrete foundations from an old power plant that was in this area. And so that was unforeseen, I think, by everybody when we first started, but we worked closely with XL to understand what's under the ground and to design around it. And so that raised, or the lawn area in the center is actually going to be raised about 2 feet above the plaza so that we can build over the top and not disturb those foundations. From what we understand, they're massive, and the cost to remove those would be prohibitive. So a lot of interesting challenges with this project, and those challenges kind of dictated some of the layout of where we did certain things, trying to avoid heavy construction cost of removals. Any questions about this Maybe we flip to the next slide.
Let's look at the next slide and then we can come back. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So this is just a kind of a perspective view that might be a little easier to wrap your head around everything that's going on there of the plan that we just reviewed.
Okay, a couple of questions I have. Let me start with the first one that you just mentioned earlier about that large concrete pad. And you're going back to the, if you would, yeah, go back. So under number 12, is that where you're talking about the raised event lawn?
Yes, sir.
And I am by no means an engineer of understanding any of this stuff, drainage engineer or anything like that. But would there be anything that has to happen to allow for drainage if there's going to be a concrete slab underneath all of that? What will we be looking at to ensure that there's proper, just help me understand that, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yes, sir. So that's definitely a consideration. We do have a local engineering firm, Smith Engineering, as a consultant to us on this project that are making sure things like that are addressed. And of course, being local, they're very familiar with the rain events and things like that you get. It's not as complex as you might think. We're looking at creating a soil mix that will both allow percolation through it as well as allow the grass to grow. And then, only the rain that falls on or the irrigation that falls on the grass is what we're concerned about. So a lot of times when you're dealing with drainage, you're worried about drainage coming from the alley and from all these plaza areas. So it is actually a finite amount of what, just falls on the grass. So simply, we're just going to slope the subgrade towards the edges and then provide weep holes in the raised walls to allow water to escape. But because we've been able to control the amount of water that's coming into the lawn, it's not a very complicated drainage system.
Okay. My another question I have is, from what I look at on satellite maps, the alley continues south of First Street there, and it continues with power lines and everything. It looks as if we're going to need, is that going to require a vacating? I wouldn't think it would have to. I don't think we could vacate because we've still got power lines coming through there. Joe, do you know what it would require of us to be able to keep from, or am I just looking at this wrong and there would still be the ability of driving through there to get to that parking lot? I'm trying to understand that.
Yeah, there would, for day-to-day deliveries to businesses, things like that, the idea is that you could drive through there. So even though we're showing some intermittent shade structures, they're no more prohibitive than the existing electrical arches that are out there. And and we would design the concrete to be drivable. The thought though is during events that you would prohibit anyone from driving on those, and then that would be more of a pedestrian type alley.
Okay, and now I see that the entrance to that other parking is off of Walnut, so I see that better now. Okay, and just to comment, I know that we're also going to be seeing coming out of legal and going to full council here in February, a change in parking requirements for the MRA as well. But I see that with this is going to be additional parking added, so that's going to help to fix some of that as well for those areas. So I'm glad to see that as being considered as part of this design as well. Other committee members?
Is that it? Is that the end of
Is that the end of the,
No.
do you have any questions right now? Okay. So let's continue. Go ahead.
We do. So we do have costs broken down at the end, so we can flip to those. So the initial construction target from New Mexico Main Street, something that they would be comfortable providing funding for construction, was 1.6 million. Now, of course, those conversations were before all the wild pricing and things that we've experienced, very recently. And so, the cost of construction going up, the long list of sort of goals and needs and wants for this project, we're looking at initial phase one cost of closer to $2 million. And we've had a lot of conversations with staff about phasing and, how we can package this thing to go out. So that would include the main plaza and the north section of Alley, as well as some of the work on First Street for the food truck parking. There's an additional phase two cost that we can flip to on the next sheet. Another, before tax, $773,000, which would include a formal sort of completion of that parking lot area, as well as that alley construction to the south, which of course is more expensive than a typical asphalt alley. It's colored concrete, shade, lighting, and different things like that. There's a lot of talk too about that parking lot. Could it function in the meantime as a gravel parking lot? It certainly could. There are some future plans, perhaps from Excel to take some of that parking area for future expansion of the substation. We're having discussions with them, trying to figure out if that's something that's coming in 5 years, or it's just something that they might do 30 years down the road. And so that answer would impact how much we develop that parking area. And so those costs could certainly come down. So we have a large area with a lot of specialty items, which is what's driving this cost up. But we're in New Mexico. We're pragmatists. We've been doing public works construction for nearly 50 years. We're used to phasing. We're used to value engineering. We're used to being creative to get things done and get it built with the money that we have available. So, I just want to lay that out, is that we will absolutely work to be flexible and to figure out how to get this done with the money that becomes available in hand. Next slide. So I didn't include the very lengthy plan set of 52 pages for everyone to look at, but we're basically done. We're at 100% not for construction. What that means is we're still waiting on a few last comments from Excel on making sure they're on board. We've kept them in the loop the whole way along, so we're not anticipating any major issues. We had a few monitoring wells that we're working with NMED to see. They're expecting to abandon those. They're kind of doing their last testing and making sure there's no findings. And then some DOT comments, as well as we've let Juanita have the challenge of picking out the colors of some of the site furnishings and things like that. So we're kind of down to the picking the wallpaper level of plan completion.
I agree.
Yeah. So we anticipate having those answers in the next couple of weeks, and then of course we'll be there to present to council in the near future here. And I think once we have all that done, we can quickly wrap up the plans and be ready to go.
All right.
So one last slide, I guess, just to prove the point of where we're at. Here's just a select couple of pages of the planting plan, and then some of the details of the water feature. It's the tower that you see, so it's designed like an old water tower for a railroad, and then water would dump into a basin at the bottom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Juanita, do you have anything else to add?
I don't have anything else to add, other than we just really wanted to present the final designs to you to get your approval. Following the construction ready documents, what we will do is we will ask our Main Street Roswell to apply for funding with New Mexico Main Street. We understand that right now in the legislature, there's about $10.1 million that they are asking for to fund these types of projects. So we are hopeful to get a portion of that and be able to actually build this. So.
Okay, and that was going to be one thing I was going to ask you to cover is where are we going from here? And I have spoken with some of our folks at Main Street Roswell. They're very excited as well, it seems, to move forward with something.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and I'll piggyback on that as well too. So, and Mr. Loftus covered that just a little bit as well too, is that we haven't anticipated pre-COVID and everything that there'd be $1.4 million to go to the construction of this. As you can tell, it's a $3 million project. As we walk through the phasing I'm kind of comfortable with, not entirely. I would rather do the project and have it done. But the phasing I can warm up to a little bit. But the concern I had is that every time we talked about pulling it back to try to get closer to the numbers that are being provided that we anticipate will be provided by Main Street, it took away a little bit of what we were trying to accomplish. So with the stakeholders, the Main Street, Roswell, Xcel Energy, everybody that's involved in this thing, I couldn't in a clear conscience cut it back to that level. So it's get a very good product, $3 million program or a project, and figure out exactly how to eat the elephant. That was the whole idea within that concept. I think the one thing I really like about the use of the property that we have there is that this property is not developable property. So it's not going to ever take away a business that could develop into the downtown area. So this will be a complementary use for the entire downtown. And so it'll be value added completely. So we're not taking space for that. It is a long-term relationship with Xcel Energy in order to use the property. So we have all those little bases covered as well too. But I just could not, when we talk to Main Street about funding and everything, there is a chance that there may be additional funding out there because they have an extra large pot of gold right now. And so the idea is that we build this project this way, we present it this way, and we walk it through without messing with exactly what we're trying to accomplish with it until we have to. And so that was the whole concept of where we got to today. Rob did a great job with this. And I think all of the partners that we had in building this whole model, it was some good conversation in the whole process. So.
All right. Yes, sir. Councilor Roebuck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, staff and Rob and your team for the work on this. A couple of comments. Can we go back to the probably the first and second slide? Fine.
Let me just.
Sure.
Oh, I can't. Okay.
It's all right. So the one thing that's fine. That's like either of those fine. I think the one thing that I've been involved in a lot of these discussions, and the one thing that I wanted to circle around about, I think this is a good plan. I think it's going to work fine. There was a lot of talk and from all the stakeholders about food trucks. Can somebody address, whether staff or Rob can address where you guys landed on the ability to have food trucks out here hopefully on a regular basis? Because I think that was because the space is well designed for festivals and that kind of thing, which I think is a need we have downtown. We shoehorn festivals onto this property in front of the courthouse. It really isn't appropriate. So I like that need, but my concern is obviously for all the times when there's not festivals, because we want the space utilized. And so can you real quickly, I'll let Juanita field it first and then.
Sure, yeah, and then I can hand it over to Rob. So one of the ideas of this piece, obviously, we don't want it just for a festival. We want it to be used throughout every week, every day. Along the street there, we have the ability on First Street. We have the ability to put some food trucks along the alleyway. We have the ability to place them in there. And then also on the opposite side, if we had like a load in.
So we're talking here
Yes.
and there.
Mhm. We have the ability to put them in. During the design phase, we did talk about power and electricity to ensure that we would have enough to be able to provide, to get them come drive up, plug in, and then they are.
Generators.
Yes.
So Rob, do you want to talk about the electrical or technical aspects of where these food trucks will be placed?
Yes, thanks, Juanita. So as Juanita was describing, there's, depending on the type of event and the size of the event, there's a lot of different places the food trucks could go. Along the railroad edge where that 15 is, along that walk. There also within the plaza, so the orange large shade structure actually shifted so that that plaza was a little bit more open in the center, and then all that concrete is drivable, so you could presumably have food trucks in that area if it's a smaller type festival or more of a concert focused on the lawn, as well as the alley where the 13 and the 18 are. Now for large festivals where you're utilizing the entire plaza and lawn for pedestrian uses, we're looking at parking the food trucks along First Street, where those sort of three trees are. And that's where.
Rob, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt for time's sake, because you're not answering my question. So for time's sake, I'm talking about when there's not a festival going on. Let's say somebody.
Right. So
13,
Yeah.
18, and along 15.
13, 18, and 15.
Mhm. With the ability to
Yeah.
also include it on First Street.
Okay.
So we would have food trucks there by the, like, if a food truck wanted to be there like every Tuesday, you know, so people know they go on Tuesday and get tacos there or donuts or whatever. And they got the proper permitting and stuff like that. Where would they be allowed to park? I guess.
13, 18 and First Street. And
18, okay. And I guess, will there be power there available so they don't have to run generators?
So the power is focused along First Street for the formal food truck parking where they could pull up and plug right into an outlet. But for other events, or if they have a generator, they could park a number of spaces.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, because I think that's one thing that when I was a couple years, well, gosh, probably 4 or 5 years ago now, when I went to the UFO Festival and with my little kids, and we had to leave because the generators were just too loud, you know, and I think that ruins the food truck. So hopefully we'll.
Yeah, that's actually something Councilor we've stayed on top of.
Great.
Is there are a whole new line, these are approved by the federal government, of ultra quiet, ultra efficient generators that are now available that are at, and this is primarily being it was a whole line of generators primarily developed for the RV industry because they were experiencing the same things. Too much noise, too much smoke, too much of everything with the old school generators. But the new lines of generators that are out now for food trucks as well as for RVs, they're 65 dB maximum. They are incredibly fuel efficient and very, very good. So they are. We're looking at amending our food truck requirements to make sure that those units that are internally powered are going to be utilizing the latest and best technology.
Sure. Sure. But there will be a couple spots at least for people to just drive up and plug in on First.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry about, I didn't mean to take that so long. I was a question. So, and I think that nobody's mentioned, but I think that it is important to point out that First Street right now is effectively, you know, there's not much traffic on that. But the great thing about where that First Street goes right to the UFO Museum parking lot. It's a straight shot right down and that is a way where people are going to be getting into this space. So I think that's a great connection to the rest of the downtown. So I think my last comment was just that when we look at spending money on something like this, we really need to look at with the eyes of having business eyes at it. And that this is not just building a park. This is a significant investment in infrastructure for tourism. Just like we need roads to get goods into stores, we need infrastructure for tourism. We've talked a lot about the airport today, which is an underutilized asset, and we're working on getting that one. Tourism is potentially bigger than the amount of growth that we could have with the airport. It's a little harder for us to understand, but this kind of investment, and I do appreciate Joe saying, let's figure out how to do it right. This kind of investment done right will generate income for the city through tourism dollars. I think more than any of us can really possibly fathom or understand right now. So this is a critical, important investment. If we ever want to turn our downtown around, downtown's not, downtown, the business owners down there have done a good job. The building owners, for the most part, done a pretty good job. We have a couple of lamos, but for the most part, we have people out there who are trying hard. This is a great way for the city to say, hey, this is important. We do this, we make some zoning tweaks, and hopefully we get a little funding from the American Rescue Act to help to pay for some fire suppression. And we will see a radically different downtown. And not only does that affect tourism, this is also when people come and kick the tires on the town. Do I want to move here? These are the kind of things that are important to them. Quality of life things. And somebody might say, well, that's not important for me. It's like, well, you want that doctor here in town? You want that doctor to move here and take care of you? Because this is what that doctor and their family, their spouse and their children, this is what they're looking at. Do I want to move here to Roswell? Do you want those good teachers to move here? Do you want those people to come here when they have opportunities? City employees, well, we won't go on into those too. So not to mention that it will help those properties in that railroad district say, okay, the city is committed to this. It's going to help business people say, well, I can see the city's putting money into it. They're going to want to put their money into the same places the city's putting money into. So I really hope that we move forward with this. We get it done. I really hope that we get I know that we want to get other people to pay for things, but I think we need to be seriously committed enough to this to say, we're going to take money out of either the American Rescue Act or we're going to take money out of the general fund and looking at this as an investment that we can't shy away from investing in this. If we want to see that downtown change for the quality of life for our current citizens, as well as for the economic interest of growing our tourism business, where there's tons of potential there. I yield.
Councilor Kennard.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Firstly, I wanted to ask Juanita if you could email me this presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, she'll get that for you.
Thank you. And because it's kind of hard to see, but I just wanted to say, I agree with Jacob. We're fighting a big battle. We're fighting against our economy in the state. We're fighting against our education status in the state. And, we have to make Roswell as appealing as possible. We also need to meet the needs of the people that live here. And I think that this is a perfect match to do that. So I just kind of wanted to echo what Councilor Roebuck said, and that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Anything else from staff or council? Okay. All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
Before the motion, assuming this passes and goes to council, we might want to extend a invitation to Excel to be at because they have been in support of this project for a long time.
Okay.
So to Mike and his people. Okay. Mr. Jair, I move that we recommend approval to the full council, approval of the final design and engineering plans and design for the Great Flocks Main Street Roswell Market Walk project.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second that we send to full council with recommendation of approval of the plans and everything considered with this project. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Very quickly, public participation. Anyone in the room with public participation? All right, and anyone online with the GoToMeeting that desires to speak for public participation, I see, Rita, your microphone is green. If you'd like to speak, you are more than welcome to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just curious about the money amount that the city owes the medical center, and if they still owe that money, and how long they have owed that money? And is there any contract in place before the 1/12/22 contract? And is the city going to be charged interest on that money unless all of that has been paid? I'm just curious since this is a finance meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your concerns. Give us just a moment.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure exactly how that question is there. I'll try to answer what I can. We have an ongoing relationship with ENMUR. They serve, or I'm sorry, Medical Center.
Eastern New Mexico Medical Center.
Eastern New Mexico Medical Center. I better use the right acronym. And so it's an ongoing relationship. So we have invoices that are delivered to us. We pay the invoices as we go. So as far as that, we will continue to have a relationship on the invoices back and forth every month or whatever it takes. They do serve for our role within the so if our police officers get involved in an altercation or something, there may be a checkup that has to be occur that we cover. Same thing with fire department and such like that. So we have this ongoing relationship with that. So we will always we'll be carrying some type of that. As far as I know, we're up to date with everybody there. There is no interest that is being charged or being carried with that. We just recently resolved some back charges with the medical clearance that was held at the jail. We believe that we were inadvertently charged for something that should have been a Chavez County payment.
The county detention center.
Yep, the county detention center. Yep. So, and so I'm assuming that this line of questioning pertains to some of that. That was information that when we could not find a resolution as to whether or not it was a correct billing, we accepted responsibility of that and we covered that cost. And so there is no outstanding bill. There is no interest rates with us in this relationship with the hospital. And so I believe, unless you have any questions for me,
okay. All right. Thank you for an explanation on that there. Do we have anyone else that has the desire to speak for public participation? We have on our screen caller 02 that is unmuted. Did you have something you desired to say or speak or ask? Okay, and wow, I guess not. I scared them. And Councilor Kennard, yours is unmuted as well. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, I did, and I know that this is just one of the committees that it needs to be brought up in. But in reading Chief Smith's report, the December report, which I think came out in January, I noticed there that he stated that the vehicles are deteriorating. So I had talked to Joe Smith, and he had kind of given me an update on the vehicles. I know that we have 16, I believe 16 or 17 that are our vehicles that they are outfitting right now. But I was wondering if there was any way that we could budget for so many new vehicles per year for the police department or any other department that has fleet vehicles that needs that addressed.
Mr. Matthews?
We're actually currently in the process, myself and Becky's done a lot of the research on and looking at a possible lease of vehicles. We have found out we cannot lease public safety type vehicles because of the added equipment, things that we have to put in them. But if we can lease vehicles for other departments, that will free up other finances that we could potentially use and put back in. The difficulty has been actually getting these vehicles. We have a lot of vehicles ordered right now. We get them rather quickly. I know a few months ago, Mr. Nebb had you confirm a purchase where we had some vehicles at the last minute that was offered to us in Albuquerque, that we had to take them right on the spot. We took them. So we continue to look for those things. We can allocate the money budgeted, that whether or not we can get them at this point in time is very difficult. So we're looking daily, trying to find vehicles. We have them ordered. We're trying to get them outfitted. One of the problems right now with some of the vehicles that is in Albuquerque is that the parts that come in for the equipment, light bars, brackets, things like that, is apparently stuck on a ship out in the ocean somewhere.
Waiting to be unloaded in Los Angeles somewhere.
So, we are working on that. I know Mr. Smith at the police department, Captain Smith is on the project and watching them very closely and involved in it on a daily basis.
Okay, I was just, I know that it's on someone's radar, but I just wanted to see, in the way that we are dealing with the streets, with the worst streets, just make sure that our police department is also taken care of with their vehicles.
Absolutely, Counselor. And it's not just the police department. I mean, that's a very important part of it, that it's important to us also to make sure that our support services throughout the city, i.e. code enforcement, wastewater, you name it, all of our parks department, we are very good at handing down vehicles from one department and recycling them on down until they're no longer usable for us. But at some point, the cost of that is more expensive than just replacing that vehicle. So that's why we're looking right now. We've got some prizes on leasing 20 vehicles in the upcoming year. Waiting on a little bit more information to make sure that we can do something like this, but there could potentially be something coming up for the next budget year of potential lease of some vehicles.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Before we leave, I had a question for the mayor. When you were in the legislature, what was a normal year for capital outlay for you to be given?
Nothing like what they have.
What do you?
I couldn't give you a number. I'm really sorry. It's been 10 years.
Do you know the numbers for each legislator this year?
I've heard them, but I can't tell you.
1.86 million for each legislator. That's
mind-boggling.
Mind-boggling. Just while we've had, that's the Senate. That's correct. No. That's I believe that's what the House is getting.
I was there one year, we were getting zero.
Yeah.
Because this is a tight budget year.
I remember that.
10,
I remember that.
11.
Yeah. We're actually pulling money back in 2008 as well, I remember, and 9. But I believe I may be wrong, but I think that's the House that's getting 1.86 per. So the Senate's going to get even more. What's that?
I said that's what I read.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, so just so everyone knows, I know I'm going up, Councilor Stubbs is going up, Mr. Fuentes is going up. Who else is going up? Is that it? Do we have any other councilors going up?
Not that we've heard.
We're going to Santa Fe after we leave here, grabbing some lunch and hitting the road for Santa Fe to be able to speak with our legislators, to be able to meet and hopefully better inform them of what we have and our needs and be able to talk to them. And then I'll be staying over actually Friday and Saturday morning for meetings as well. So we're going to be doing that. Last but not least, today is my wife has been blessed to be my wife for 26 years. So I've been blessed to have her. This is my anniversary and I'm taking her to Santa Fe to meet with legislators. So.
How romantic.
I did.
All right. Nothing else to come before us. So it is 11:40. We are dismissed. Wow, a long one.